Thanks for joining this morning. Today we're going to run through our P6-Scrubber. I'm going to do the lead-in. I'm Nicole Jardin. I'm the CEO and founder of Emerald Associates, and I'm joining from Calgary. And doing the heavy lifting today is going to be Sue Hopkins. She's joining from Wyoming. We're going to run through the scrubber. Now, this is one of our newer tools that works with P6. And the main reason we built it was when we're working with clients and we're supporting them, many of them are dealing with imports from construction companies or from contracting companies. And they have to deal with the data that comes in and that pollutes their P6 system. Now, to take care of that, we've got a lot of different ways that clients stick handle dealing with imports. Okay, so when you import, of course, you get any codes, you get any user-defined fields, you get any global data that they've used in their system. So it becomes a bit of a pain in the neck to try and keep your P6 tidy. So the way that people stick handle that or try and work around that, they come up with clever solutions like everyone always does. It's always interesting to see the solutions people come up with. But typically people are putting side databases, so secondary databases, which of course have a cost, to do their scrubbing in or their cleaning in, and then they remap things and do all this manual. So it's time consuming. And so we wanted to give our clients a better way to do it, a more reliable way to do it, and also a way that not only the senior, most experienced folks could take care of this. Okay, so someone who's maybe more junior or newer to using P6 could still take care of keeping the database clean. So that's really was the driving force behind creating this scrubber tool. The other thing that we found is some of our clients had specifications, very strict specifications on how they wanted schedules put together and the kind of data that they wanted. So we wanted to give people a very simple way to see whether things were adhering or not. So that was kind of another driving force behind this. So we kind of piggyback some of our other tools, our P6QA, our P6 calculator functions, our loader functions. We kind of took a bit of the best from those tools to create the scrubber tool as its own. So what we're finding here for there's a lot of benefits to doing this. Okay, it's so simple to do the remapping, and Sue's going to run through it in detail and show you how easy it is to see where you've got a gap in how the data is coming in. So it makes it very reliable, very simple, much quicker than doing this in a scrubbing database, or some people even open the XERs and start changing data in there, which is really, really not a good idea. And you violate all sorts of licensing and support when you do stuff like that. Okay, so we've seen that. We've seen lots of people do that. So the benefit really is this is much more reliable, and it gives you a straighter pass at doing the scrubbing. It's easier for multiple users to use it. So Scrubber is not sold on a user basis, so multiple users can use it, and it really changes the dynamic when you're in an importing situation. So the way that it works, and Sue's going to show it live, the way that it works, it's very simple. You create your scrubbing definition, then that definition is then used on the XER that you're bringing in and the XML that you're bringing in. So you can use it on the file. then you can see where you've got anything going astray. Okay, now in doing that, we also clear out some of the old straggler things that have been plaguing the XERs for a long time, the risk types and the POBS problems, okay, which I think finally in version maybe 21, maybe 20, I think they've finally got those out of our way. But if you've got older databases, you probably are still seeing that. Now, it checks a whole variety of things. So you can check UDFs, codes, cost codes. It'll check different validations that you can administer. So different ID structures if you've got naming conventions. So it will warn you of those so that you can give the feedback that they're not adhering to some of the standards, okay? So that's in a nutshell how it works, and Sue will actually do a deep dive and show you the tool in action. So I'm gonna pass it over to Sue and let her give us the nitty gritty on how it works.
Okay. I think I am here. Let me do screen share and see if you can see what I need you to. Okay.
Here
Can
it
you see?
comes. Yeah,
All
we're
right.
good. It's all
Perfect.
yours.
Okay. So P6-Scrubber is deployed in two different types of modes, if you will. Um, we can do a standalone version, which is not connected to a database at all. And in that case, it works the same. You define what you want to scrub, how you want to handle the data, and it it will go ahead and scrub the file and produce it just as the uh, connected version does. However, the little piece that's kind of nice about having it connected to particular databases is that it can actually tell you what type of data is in the database that you're going to load that or to import that scrubbed file in. So I'm going to use the online or the connected portion. And as you can see, we have the ability to, select whatever database we are going to be working or importing into. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sign in. Excuse me. And essentially, we've tried to make this as simple as possible. So along the left here, we have different subject areas and all of the items that can be remapped or verified in your P6 scrub. So as Nicole mentioned, we can do this both with XERs and XMLs. Um, I'm going to use an XER example today, but the XML works exactly the same. Now, as we go down, we can see we have different topics that we can, within each one of these subject areas, that we can look at. We have, the ability in activities and projects to identify whether a specification that we've set out, maybe in our contract to our contractors, maybe we wanted a specific type of pattern, or we're expecting a specific type of pattern on either a project ID or a project name. We can do this as well with activities. So the first thing you do when we're going through is you tell P6 Scrubber what checks or what verifications you would like to do with in your scrub. So I've enabled this one, and I can go in and I'm just going to work with a project ID pattern right now. So I can define that project ID pattern, and I can do something as simple as a contains or a starts with or an ends with. But what really gets into it is this simple pattern where you can kind of build out the pattern that you are expecting. So let's say in my case, I want to have, I'm expecting to see a letter of some sort, and I'm looking for 2 letters. So I can put how many letters, and then I'm expecting them to be uppercase. So I've defined that first piece. Now, after that, I can put in another piece of criteria. Um, I want to see any number, and I want, excuse me, that number. I should see 5 digits after that number, so I can apply that. Now I'm expecting to see a dash, so I can define that I want to see a specific text, and in my case, it is a dash. And then after that, it could be any number of things. So then I can put any character. And when I put 0 here, that's going to say any number of characters can follow that specific pattern I set out beforehand. So then I can apply that. Now, to help you out when you were uh, defining these patterns is we have this little test pattern box here, and obviously I don't have anything in it, so it's not validated. It's not it's red, so it's saying nope, that this doesn't match. Now, if I were to go in and oh, and I misdefined it. No, I didn't. There we go. So when I go in and put a valid one in, it's going to turn green and show me that my definition um, is actually matching what my test pattern is. So you can check that before you go. And you can continue with project names. And like I said, there are IDs in there as well. Now, we have several different types of codes in different subject areas. So we have project codes, activity codes, and resource codes. Now, we can go in and we can work with these because a lot of times at the global level, we have codes that are specific to our businesses. And we don't necessarily want to bring in codes that are going to go in and pollute our global codes. So I'm going to talk about the code, the activity code area. Now, again, I would want to enable this. And what I have here is the ability to start adding what codes I have in my database. So I can build these from scratch. So if I build it from scratch, I just put an add here and I would put in vendor. In this case, I'm going to put vendor. And then it's asking me, it's going to coach me as I go along. So now it says I must have an action that is selected. So when I select an action, I'm going to say I want to keep this. And then because I am connected to my particular database, I can actually go in and I can define that. So this is the code itself. Now, in order to put values into a code, I just expand my underneath my vendor and I see where I have the ability to put that dictionary in there. Now, you can hand type these in if you'd like, or you can bulk load them. And so when I bulk edit here, it gives me the ability to cut or copy and paste into this area to define my values. Now, if I'm in P6 and let's say I want to go in and look at my activity codes and for that vendor, and I want to make sure that all of these are in there. Let me just change that to all values to make sure I'm getting all of them. I can actually go in, I can highlight them all, I can copy them, and then I can go back into um, P6-Scrubber and paste them in. Now it's going to come in columns, and I have the ability of, saying what columns I want that are my actual columns that need to be populated. Now I don't need this color column, so I can simply check that or uncheck that or X that out, and I get just my values and my descriptions. Now, I also have, because coming in from Primavera, when I copy and paste it, I actually have a header row that comes in. Well, I can choose to remove that header row as well. So when I apply this, it will come in and it will um, put all of those values in that were in my Primavera database. So I can put those all in there and they'll be ready to go. Now, again, it's going to have me select the action, whether I want to keep or scrub it, and it's going to want me to put a value in there. So I can go in and do that. Let's see if I go over. Oh, and it looks like I have a mismatch. Matching value could not be. Oh, that's because my description is missing. So I need to put my description in. Once everything is good across the board, I also have this column here telling me whether it matches what I have in my Primavera database that I'm connected to. So I can see in both of these cases, I have it matches both at the code level as well as this one dictionary value as well. Um, so I can check to see that they are indeed out there. Now at the vendor, if I hover over this, like you see, I've still got a little warning sign here, a little warning icon. If I hover over that, it's actually going to tell me what it is finding that is not valid or okay in this particular piece of data. So in this case, when I hover over it, it says my dictionary validation has failed. And that's because I haven't finished setting up these ones underneath here. Now, another way that we can do this is we can bring in a file that already exists. So let's say we get in a a an XCR from a contractor, and we want to scrub it before we actually bring it into our database. Now I'm just going to delete this so that we have kind of a clean area here. And I'm going to go in and I can actually import that file first so I can see what's contained in that file. So I'm going to browse to the file that I'm wanting to scrub or that I want to base my definition on. And this is actually going to come in and import the data that's already there. Then I can check that data against my database and I can see exactly what is matching and what is not. So it's going to still use those same warnings for me um, to say, hey, we've got some issues with this particular code. So in this case, on my district, I can see that it matches P6 at the code level. However, when I hover over this, it looks like I have a dictionary value that is not there. So I can go in and I can take a look and I see that I have, a DIST5 for my District 5. Well, I know that I have District 5 in my database, so I want to find that matching value for it. So I can go into the value that this second part here is showing me what's actually in my database, and I could type it and I can see, oh, mine is a D5. So I can select it, and now I have the ability to remap this DIST5 to D5. So it's going to go in and it's going to update that value in my XCR when I run the scrub. Now, as I come in, I'm just going to close this down for a little bit better real estate. When I come in and I see other values or other items that are in here, I may decide that these aren't something I want to come in to my database. So I can open up this action and I can say, I want to scrub that out. So it's going to be removed from the XCR file. Um, and the same goes for as we work down. So I'm just going to scrub out client type client. I'm going to keep type of schedule here. Now on UDFs, what I have is essentially you have a subject area. Oh, and something I didn't visit. Let me go back to that. Um, on each one of these, I have the ability to scrub extra items that come in. So let's say I save this definition and I'm going to run another XCR on it, and some additional values come in that are not values as well as codes come in. I don't want to allow those in. I can check this, and that any additional code that comes in is going to be removed from the file. Now let's go to our UDFs. Now at the UDF level, we have some subject areas here. And so maybe we don't have the same WBS items or UDFs in our database. We could choose to scrub all of those out, but maybe we want to keep our project area UDFs coming in. And the same happens with this. So let's say, I want to, scrub these out. Um, I can keep some. I see one down here that's submittal date and it's not in there. Well, I know that I have a submittal date. However, we call it something else in our database. So I can highlight this and I can start putting in what my code or my UDF is, and I can select it. So I can, if it doesn't exist in their database or it exists as something else in their database, I can actually remap it to the one that matches mine. So I would continue down dealing with each one of these. Now, when we get to activities, they are similar. I mean, the codes are going to be scrubbed and done the same way, as well as the UDFs. Now, with resources, we can also handle resources. So when we handle resources, we're going to see that we have an ID and a name that come in with our file, and we have a new ID and new name that are either matching or not matching out in our database. And you can see I've got several pages of resources, so I have quite a few. But the one I want to deal with on this first page here is I have three civil engineering resources that are coming in with this file. Well, I don't necessarily want these broken down to such granularity. What I want to do is I want to actually remap these up to kind of a summary level for my database. I don't need to have all of this detail. So I can go in and remap these. So I'm going to put it at a higher level. Now it's telling me that my description, my name doesn't match. So I can select that. And then I can go in and change these other ones so that they are going to map to that higher level when it imports into my database. I've got these three that are more granular that are going to map into more of a summary civil engineering resource in my database. Now, we also deal with codes and UDFs at the resources. And another thing that we have is that we have units of measure. So, not everybody defines their units of measure the same, obviously. Well, as I look at this, this is, cubic meters, obviously, but this is not how I have cubic meters defined in my database. Now, instead of creating a whole nother additional um, unit of measure, what I can do is I can go out and find out what exactly I have. So I have actually a capital M and a 3, and it looks like I've got a different definition in there. So we call that cubic meters. So I can keep that, my units of measure, um, a lot cleaner instead of having a whole list of duplicate units of measure for the same type of unit of measure. Now, our calendars, we've enabled calendars to be rolled down to the project level because a lot of times you have a calendar. Just about every database, I would say, has a standard 5-day work week calendar, unless it's been deleted out, of course. But that doesn't mean that this calendar's definition matches your calendar's definition by the same name. So you might want to keep that integrity of that calendar, that definition, but you don't want it to pollute your global calendar. So we've enabled you to roll that down, and that's going to take that calendar and roll it down to the project level. So in my case, I want to roll down all of my calendars. I don't want any of these coming into my global calendars for my database. So I'm going to roll them down. Now up here at the top, I have the option of rolling down any other global calendars that come in. So let's say, they've created a new global calendar down the road somewhere, and I don't want any new global calendars in my database. I can check this, and it's going to deal with anything additional to the ones that are defined here. It's also going to roll those down. Now, for informational purposes, we also have our project calendars that are displayed so you can see what's coming in with that project. Now, I even have the option, if I wanted to, let's say this calendar here, this 6-day calendar, is the same as the 6-day calendar wrong place, on over in this other area. Well, I can actually remap this and rename it to that calendar. So I can do some remapping here as well with my calendars. Now, I also have the option of resource calendars. Those resource calendars are going to be exposed. And, same thing. If I had another calendar that I wanted to remap that to, I could certainly go out and I could remap that calendar to a calendar that already exists in my database. Now, for roles, as well as cost accounts, roles work very much the same as resources, and cost accounts work very much the same as UDF fields. So we've got, on the left is our what's in our file. On the right is what it is trying to put into my database, and it's telling me whether it matches or not. So I've got that all the way down on all of these checks. Now, once I have a definition, something that is defined, I've dealt with all the pieces of data that I want to deal with, and I'm going to perhaps be getting files from this particular vendor or for a particular project on a regular basis. I don't have to rebuild these every time. I can actually save that as a definition. So I do that by bringing up my save and load definitions, and I have this option to save as. So when I save as, I just give it a name. And if I wanted to, I could put some notes about it. Um, and maybe, the company or whatever that you want to put in there, and project number, things like that. I'm not going to put anything at this point, and then I can save this. So once I apply it, it's going to come down. It's going to tell me it was saved successfully down here at the bottom, and I can also tell that it's now saved because it says demo example. That's the name of my scrubber definition that I have applied right now. So now, once I have my definition out there, I'm ready to scrub my files. So I want to apply a different definition that I'm going to use. So I can come in and I can save and load definitions. I can choose the definition that I want to apply and to run on some files, and I can load that in. And again, you can see that my name has changed up here at the top right, so I can see what is actually done here. And I've got all of this definition already set out for me. So I'm ready to scrub my file. I can scrub my file by hitting the Scrub Files button here. And then I can go and I can select the file or files that I want to scrub. So let's say I want to do these two files. The 2080 and the 4080. Oh, I don't want all of them that way. I want it this way. Okay. I can select all those and I can open them and I can run them, process them, and they're going to come through and run both in order that they were submitted or on that list. Now, once they're complete, I have some options here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to go view a report. I want to see what happened during that change to my file. So I've got a really nice report here that's basically capturing this. At the top, I have some summary data. So I've got all of my data types and my items that I was touching on. And so I've got greens and reds kind of telling me what's changed, what hasn't changed. If it's blank, like the activity ID, it means that I don't have it enabled. So nothing was checked on it. It's also going to give me some statistics on what was kept, what was removed, what was changed. Now, as I scroll down, I'm going to get a little more detail, in fact, a lot more detail on each one of my scrubbing definitions. So I can easily see what came through clean and what did not. So in the case of my project code type and my dictionary validation, I can see that there were some changes here. So as I scroll down, I've got the gray tables that are showing me what my definition actually is set as. So all those things that I set in that definition are spelled out here. When I go down a little bit further, I have these colored ones, and these are actually the results of what happened during the scrub of that XCR. So I can see that my client and my client type were removed out. Nothing was remapped and the dictionary wasn't changed because they were removed. Now on my district, I see that it wasn't scrubbed out. It wasn't remapped, so it matches, but I did have some sort of dictionary change. And I have the same thing on my type of schedule. So that one was actually remapped to a schedule status. And it's telling me that. And it's telling me that I had some dictionary changes in that as well. Now, down below, it's telling me the dictionary changes that were made. So my District 5 was remapped to D5, and it's telling me that. Now, I also have, it looks like because we changed that that schedule or remapped that type of schedule to schedule status, it looks like we had a new value that came in with that, and we allowed it to come in, and so it was added. So as you go down, you can see the results of each one of the scrubs that you have performed on that particular XCR. Now, if you're satisfied with this, you can go ahead and download it. If not, you go back and correct your definition to be what you expect, and then a rerun. So I'm just going to go ahead and close this down, and I'm ready to download those results. So when I download, it's going to ask me, where do I want to put these? So I'm just going to go and put them here, and it comes out in a zip file. And if I open that up, I'm going to see that I actually get two files that are downloaded. Now I have my clean XCR, which has been scrubbed, and I can tell that because we do append it with the date and time. And I have a copy in HTML format of my report that we just looked at. So let's say I'm working with a contractor and I've run the scrubbing tool on um, their schedule, their file, and I've found that some of the things just aren't matching up to what we had spelled out in the contract. Well, I can share all or pieces of this particular report and give my contractor feedback and let them know this is what we found. This is not adhering to what we're expecting. Fix it. Could you fix it and send it back or what have you? So you can actually share this with them. Otherwise, you're ready to import your file. So I'm going to go ahead and go over into Primavera again. We'll close this down. And I've actually imported that file already, so we didn't have to wait for that import to happen. So this is the file or the project that I scrubbed. Now you can see that we have some indicators that we set as we're actually going through that scrub. So P6-Scrubber is setting indicators to let you know in P6 what actually happened to that file after it's been actually imported. So I can see that I had some code types that were something changed or were deleted or something. I have the dictionary types as well that were either changed and or deleted. I have my uh, remapping of my D5, and it's saying, "Yep, we allowed that. You said that that was going to match up, and that's what we needed to do." And then we've got an indicator saying, "Hey, your schedule status code, uh, we had an addition here. It changed, so this is a new code." And then it goes across to our UDFs and telling us what happened with those. So you can see ones that were, scrubbed out, which ones we kept across. Now, not only do we get a indicator and that we can display in a layout such as this, we also bring in a notebook. And again, that notebook is going to be your report that I showed you earlier. So you can actually maintain what has gone on with your scrub right within P6. So if you had anything such as a claim or anything like that, they could see that nothing was substantially changed in your file. This is actually an accounting of that as you uh, that is what happened when you did run it through the scrubber. Now, if I go to my activities area, I've got this project open. I can see that by each activity, what happened with that activity and the information that I scrubbed in that activity. So my vendors look really good. They all matched. They all came in as expected. Um, on my work type, looks like I had some that were good, and then I have some that are actually missing here. So it's giving me that indication that, hey, you've got a missing code here. You might want to check that. So you might want to go back and maybe give that feedback to your contractor or whomever, or if you need to fix them up yourself, get that fixed up. Um, in the same as discipline, I did have some additions, which are the reds. The reds are saying, okay, these are additions. These are something that was added, and we do have some again that are blank. So it's giving me that warning again. I had an activity code called mitigations that was scrubbed out, and so that is just no longer there. And then it's telling me about my activity UDFs. And so I had some changes there, and it looks like I scrubbed out a couple of those here. And then for my cost accounts, I've got my cost accounts that all look good. The few that I had matched up just fine, and we were good to go. Now, the last thing I want to show you while we're here is I do want to show you how my roles and resources did change. So I wouldn't, of course, necessarily have my original in a database, but I do have my original here, and I'm going to go in and we're going to take a look at how those changed for us in our activities. Let me just put on a role and resource comparison layout. And so here I can see that I had my resource IDs, what they were previously. There's my CIDR and my CIL that I changed. And then as I go down, I can see that I've got they all changed to engineering CI at that summary level, and they've been renamed. And I have an indicator telling me that that happened. Now, you can't tell as well on the role IDs because we don't have the full mapping on that, but they were as an EAI previously, and now they are an SCR with the TS still in there. So I didn't show you that on my last scrub, so I apologize for that. So these also have been changed and updated with that scrub that I performed on this XCR. Now, one last thing that I want to visit. And actually, let me just go back and show you those roles that I actually remapped. So I still have my definition in here. So I'm going to go to my roles, and I'm going to see that I had some EAI IDs that I wanted to start with SCR. And so I remapped those here. So my engineering went to an SCR engineering. My TS is here. And so these were remapped. Now, another thing we give you the option of is, your goal is to maybe keep your database clean. And maybe you don't want to have indicators come in with your file, or maybe you don't want the notebook to come in with your import. We actually have some settings at this top level in the general settings where I can choose to turn those off if I don't want those produced in my XCR. So I do have that option to actually disable those and just have just a file, or maybe just a notebook, or maybe just the indicators. So we do give you that option to shut those off if necessary. So um, before I go out and hand back to Nicole for wrap up, are there additional questions?
Doesn't look like we have any just yet, Sue, so.
Okay. All right. Then I will hand back over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Sue.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we had a look at how you can easily keep, scrub, remap different data. So it is a very, very easy to deploy tool. And since the definitions can be saved, you can reuse them, makes things very easy to do the next scrub and any subsequent scrub from the same contractor. Typically, you're probably getting them over and over again. Okay, so Sue went through that, and let's touch on some of the benefits that our clients using the tool have provided as feedback. So the key thing, of course, is it's very easy, it's quick. You don't have to do so many manual items as you might have to do if you're doing it in a secondary scrubbing database. The other thing with one of our key clients is they take that report and they give the contractor feedback very quickly so that the contractor can make any adjustments if need be. On the next input, or they agree that they'll just scrub it every time something comes in, because maybe the contractor wants that particular code in their database. So it works really well in terms of adhering to your standards without having to have too much struggles every time. So it's very configurable, as you saw. It's very easy to flag and report, and you can see what it's done. So it's auditable, which is important. Keeps your P6 clean. Okay, so in more than one case, we've seen a calendar get clobbered by somebody else's calendar just because the name happened to be the same. So these are things that you don't want because it can change the output of your schedule. The dates can start changing. So that is something that you avoid very easily now with the scrubbing approach. And then I already touched on the reporting, how quick that is and how easy that is. So that's really a key thing. So in terms of some case studies, really this is about saving lots of hours. So one of our key clients using the tool is using it on hundreds of projects each month that they're importing from various contractors. Used to take them several hours per project to do the analysis and to bring them in and clean them up. That's all gone. It's all gone. It's now really literally minutes to bring each one of them in And it's just saving so much time. So the tool's paying for itself over and over again, very easily. If you do less importing, or another case study that's a newer one that we're exploring with a few clients is for contractors. So when you build a schedule, but you don't necessarily want to give all the pieces to the client, because there might be overhead and profit that you're doing in P6 and things like that, you can scrub those fields out. So this could be a pre-scrub kind of use case, and then you give them the scrubbed file, okay? And that makes sure that no one of your scheduling team makes a mistake and gives them the wrong pieces. So very nice tool for a contractor to pre-scrub their P6 and only give the owner company just what's required. Okay, so that way you don't have to make a backup of the project and start removing data manually. Okay, so it really goes a long way from that perspective too. So, so this is just one of many tools that we have. Since we've had programmers on our team from the very beginning, which has been 27 years now, this is just one of many tools that we've got. So we've been doing integrations for the whole time. So we understand the data model very well. And we've got many tools that work with P6. We've got our P6 loader. We've got several updating tools. So our CAPS updating tool and our TAPS barcode updating tool. Of course, Scrubber, as we've mentioned, Calculator, which lets you do all sorts of great additional things inside of P6, like loop detectors or automatic scheduling or automatic roll-ups. So lots of great utilities there, and our P6 QA. And we've taken some of the QA functions to put in the Scrubber. So QA lets you analyze all sorts of data points in P6 to make sure they're adhering to your standards, like the DCMA and so on. So we've got a lot of great tools around P6. We've got tools around Unifier, contract management. So, you know, if you're using P6 and you know there's things that you could do to make your team's life easier, reach out, because we probably have a fit in our toolkit. So in terms of letting us know how we can help, I've put up a quick poll. If you do want to answer it, you can. That'll help us know how we can continue to support your potential improvements with P6, so we know how to reach out. So we'll leave it open for questions for another minute or two. So far, I don't see any in any of the chat rooms, either the questions or chat rooms. If you do have one, you can certainly chat it through, and we'll try and tackle it. If not, we'll wrap up in another minute or so. And if you think of a question after the webinar, you can certainly reach out to Sue, and she'll get back to you. Okay, well, I think we'll close out now, since it doesn't look like there's any immediate questions coming through. So thanks for attending. We appreciate your time, and let us know if there's anything you would like us to follow up with. Thank you.
Thank you.